He's making it rain pardons. So what's the end game? Let's break it down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the resident legal diva, and this is The Breakdown. So we have seen a fast and furious flurry of pardons coming from this current presidential administration. We have seen the January 6th insurrectionists, the people who basically tried to overthrow a free and fair election. They all got pardons. And whatever happened to Back the Blue? Oh, wait, yeah, never mind. Forget about that. And he also commuted the sentence for a man by the name of Jason Galinas, who has been serving a 14-year federal prison sentence after pleading guilty to a multi-million-dollar scheme involving fraudulent tribal bonds. And he was the second former business partner of Hunter Biden to be granted clemency. So there's that. But now, in a very interesting move, we've just seen, for the first time in history, a corporation receive a pardon. Okay, so let's break that aspect down. So last week, the presidential administration issued a full and unconditional pardon to 4 individuals and a related cryptocurrency exchange by the name of BitMEX. So BitMEX apparently solicited and took orders for trades basically tied to cryptocurrencies, and that also included Bitcoin. And last summer, BitMEX entered into a guilty plea in Manhattan because they violated the Bank Secrecy Act. They were basically operating without any type of anti-money laundering program, which is a problem. Because prior to August of 2020, basically anybody who was doing transactions with them could register to trade on BitMEX anonymously, meaning just sign up with an email address, and basically it becomes impossible to figure out where the money came from, makes it easier for there to be money laundering, kind of like all kinds of black market craziness, right? So that's why it's important for organizations to make sure that they're registered and they do everything appropriately and according to SEC rules and all of that. Well, they were like, whatever, we're going to do our own thing because there's too much money at stake. Well, the feds came down, under the prior administration, the feds were like, nope, not going to do it. And then on January 15th of this year, BitMEX was criminally fined $100 million in connection with their guilty plea. And that's on top of $130 million in civil penalties that the Commodities Future Trading Commission slapped them with. So they just had money on top of fines, just stacked that they had to basically pay back as part of their guilty plea. And it was interesting to note that at sentencing, the judge said that BitMEX, which is incorporated in the Seychelles, by the way, so they don't even operate on U.S. soil, even though the majority of their customers were U.S. customers, they kept claiming, oh yeah, we don't operate in the U.S., we have nothing to do with anything. But meanwhile, if you look at their customer base, it's all U.S. So clearly being incorporated in Seychelles was just another workaround to avoid taxes and regulations. Again, problematic. Like if any one of us mere mortals did the same thing, we'd be sitting in a jail cell. So there's that. But now they've gotten a pardon. So the corporation got a pardon as well as some individuals that work with the corporation. We don't know the full scope of what the pardon is because that hasn't been made public, but the assumption is that it basically wipes out all the criminal penalties against BitMEX. It also forgives the crimes that they committed. And here's the funky part. It makes it legally impossible for federal prosecutors to go after the company for any crimes falling within the scope of the pardon at any point in time in the future. So basically, the company now has absolutely no incentive to comply with federal criminal laws because they basically got a pass and they're able to skate. So we're looking at this, and then we're also looking at all of these white-collar criminals that basically got pardons over the course of the last few months, and starting to see a common thread. It's all about the money. Because think of this. Elon Musk, basically financed this last presidential campaign. It was his money. Let's not get it twisted. Maybe some folks gave some $25 here and there, but the large majority of the money that came for his campaign came from Musk because obviously he had an incentive because he had his SpaceX program. He wanted to get, more incentives for Tesla and all of that. So he had a stake in making sure that this president got elected, right? And so now you have a situation where he's pardoning all these corporations, he's pardoning all these white collar folks who have connection to money. And why would that be? Well, he's kind of floated the idea of having a third presidential term, saying that, the Constitution basically doesn't apply to him. We've already seen him act in that manner already. So could this be him gearing up to be able to have the finances to not only mount a campaign for a third term, but also use that money to silence dissent? It's not looking good. But whatever the reasoning and the end game is, one thing is very sure. It is basically sending the message that if you're a corporation, you can do whatever it is that you want, and you are not subject to the same rules and regulations as the rest of us. And, forget the whole, they create jobs, they're the ones that make the economy move and all of that. How many folks are they really hiring? And what are they really doing to help the average rank and file citizen? Because most of us aren't trading in Bitcoin. most of us have nothing tied up in that, and yet they're getting all sorts of benefits. The other thing that's disturbing about this is that when it comes to pardons were always designated for people. Human beings. If you read the requirements and sort of the benefits of getting a pardon on any of the federal websites, or even look at case law all the way up until this point, it really had to do with individual rights, that ability to be able to vote. Maybe you had a fine that was imposed upon you, but you really don't have the money to be able to pay it, so you get a pardon. Or you're incarcerated, releasing you from jail so that you can, whether it be you've been rehabilitated, or you're elderly, or you're ill, whatever the case may be, and you get a pardon. Or also, there's a reason to give a pardon because it's in the best interest of the country. So for instance, President Jimmy Carter gave pardons to people who were quote unquote draft dodgers in the Vietnam War because he felt that this was going to help the country heal after a very divisive war. So that's another reason why you would give a pardon. But again, this had to do with human beings so that they can move forward with their lives. Now that you're pardoning corporations, that sets a really dangerous precedent, because again, it's allowing corporations to operate with impunity and just do whatever the heck they feel like doing, and not holding them to the same standards, even though they may be harming people, even though they may be engaged in fraud and wiping out people's retirement accounts, or whatever the case may be. It's all about the slippery slope. Once you start with this, it's just going downhill from there. And now it just kind of opens the floodgates as to just about anybody can get a pardon for any reason. It really trivializes the pardon process and the historic reasons why this power was given to the president. So here we are, another day, another set of foolishness. I'll keep you posted because, again, the fact that all of these pardons are happening and happening now. Usually presidents wait till the end of their term to do pardons. He's doing this at the beginning. Again, he's setting this up for a reason. And I don't think it's going to be good for us as Americans. I don't think it's going to be good for democracy. And I don't think it's going to be good for our country. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva. And this was The Breakdown. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.